Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I'm going to take a break from doing the reviews of the D&D 2025 books because they're hurting my head. And it's 50-50. They're hurting my head and my head is hurting my head. I'm having to review some of the ways I have been thinking about things in Dungeons & Dragons for my entire life and reevaluating a couple. It's not a bad thing. It's just wasn't expecting to be doing it. So, in the meantime, I got a lovely response on a earlier video from Dynamic Defense once again. Hello. I thought I would read their response, which contains a request, and see if we can do that today. Scott, our DM is completely new to Dungeons & Dragons. I'm in danger. He has done a great job stepping into the role by researching game rules, mechanics, and forums to help him run an engaging and productive game. Good for him. His biggest challenge so far is role-playing, bringing scenes to life, using character voices, and portraying personalities. He openly acknowledges this struggle, and it's been frustrating for him because he feels like he's letting the group down. Brother, I feel you. We reassure him that he's doing well, but I believe that, as a veteran DM, you might have some tips or exercises to help him improve in this area. As always, any assistance you can provide would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for the comment. And for the ego stroke to help me get into this. So, your DM is going about this exactly correctly. What he can research, what he can mechanically get a grasp on, he has dug in and done his very best. That is step number one. Can't do better than that. Now we've identified an area where what he has done before this has not contributed as much to what he would like to do. It's really easy to sit back and say this is a skill issue, and to some degree it is. Let me tell you a little bit about how I got to my point portraying personalities, using character voices, bringing scenes to life. When I was 12 years old, I found myself in my parochial school's production of Tom Sawyer. And much to my surprise, because I had never done anything like this before, I was cast as Huck Finn, a male supporting lead. And I loved it. And my teacher worked with me on Huckleberry Finn accent. Get yourself in there a little bit. Did not hurt that I was learning this particular role while I was in Ellisville, Missouri, when Hannibal, Missouri was just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road. No, about a 40-45 minute drive. Whole class went, took a tour down there and had a field day. Not that anyone down there was speaking like that at the time, but absorbed the area. And that started me on a path into theater. I did all of the plays that were put on during my time at my junior high. Tried out for them all, made it into them all, performed, really enjoyed it. Was in all of the plays my high school performed while I was there. Really enjoyed that, got into it, did a lot of that work. And man, my high school, toast to Leon Chogus, my drama instructor and director. Holy shit, Mr. Chogus could get a lot out of you. And we did not do simple high school plays. We did classics. Like, we did Harvey and the Curious Savage and Antigone. My senior year was the musical. We did Bye Bye Birdie. I played Harry McAfee. I did not think I had the chops for a musical. Again, Mr. Chogus reached deep into my soul and yanked one out. But something else happened when I was in high school. That was when my Dungeons and Dragons playing began in earnest. Not my DMing, my playing. And that there's a difference. My D&D playing, because in D&D I was assuming roles that I was unfamiliar with, and I'd read the rules, read the background, read the lore, see what I could bring to that character. And that kind of funneled through to my work in drama. And in drama, I had to learn to emote as the character, learn what the character's vocal patterns might be. Was there a different way that they talked? How did that character come through on stage? And that carried through to my D&D playing. I got to junior college, and I could not have gone to a better and a worse college for drama. St. Louis Community College at Merrimack, where I have my associates in theater arts, because huge drama school has still to this day has a unique stage in the state of Missouri. I don't know too many places that have it. The entire stage is a set of hydraulic risers so that you can, in mid-play, change the geography and the geometry of the stage. They were able to do Phantom of the Opera and go from Paris Opera House to sewers under Paris in real time. It was impressive. I did 2 or 3 plays there before the level of expertise required of the actors exceeded what I was capable of giving to them at the time. That does lead to a couple of regrets, but very educational ones. Of course, while I was there, it's an associate's in theater arts. I was studying theater, so there were acting classes, and acting classes helped. But there was more to it than just the acting classes. There's also the various speech classes. So you do public speaking, several rounds of public speaking, like there are like 3 or 4 different classes of it. And then an amazing class called oral interpretation, where you are reading from a work of fiction, reading from a script, reading from something, but so that in real time, I could go to someplace I was expected to do a presentation of material, be handed the material 2 or 3 minutes before I went out, give it a flip, find out how long they expected me to talk, mark out that amount of time, and go read that as if I had been practicing it for weeks. That took time. But all of which is to say is that you can train to do the role-playing part. You can take classes and do extracurricular activities, and if I'm guessing correctly, your DM doesn't have time for any of that fluffing about. They got a 9 to 5 most likely, and they are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They've stepped into the role, and they've got what they got right now with maybe a few extra minutes here and there. There are exercises that I did on the regular that helped a lot I enjoyed taking baths. Baths more than showers, for one main reason, is that you can read in the bath. You can read in the shower, but you're going to go through an awful lot of books that way. And bathrooms have this thing. The tiling and the small space and the reverberations, they're great acoustically. So I would grab the novel I was reading at the time, a collection of Keith Laumer's short stories or something, and I would read them out loud. Or if not the entire story, I'd read the dialogue out loud. Or the dialogue from a single character that I wanted to convey. I'd find the things in the writing that translated into, this is what the voice carries. This is the thing that puts their personality into what they say and how they speak. And Keith Laumer, science fiction author, no longer with us, unfortunately, in his Retief stories about an intergalactic diplomat, his alien races all had fascinating vocal tics. You could identify any of his races by species, pardon me. You can identify any species from a Keith Laumer Retief novel by 3 lines of dialogue, just seeing what the vocal tics were. And conveying that. A race that spoke entirely in spoonerisms. A race that spoke entirely in a particular ritual of speech. Different, the whole Yoda thing, but with different affectations. And as you read more stuff like that, as you get more stuff like that out your throat, you realize that the voices of the characters, they are more than the vocal tics. It's what they're saying, how they're trying to say it. Are they trying to say things without getting the information out? Do they need to conceal some of this information? And if so, how do they do it? How do they speak something that seems very plain but isn't? And here it's reading different characters, watching movies, and trying to nail an accent. Accents help a lot. There's a problem. There's a condition. I've talked about it here before. A syndrome in my gaming group. It's called the Scots Wandering Contagious Accent Syndrome. Where I will start with an Irish brogue for a character because it seems appropriate given their background. And after a few minutes, an Irish brogue will start to wander through the group. People start picking up a little bit on all that Shurim Bagora stuff coming out of my mouth. And then I'll carry on with my Irish brogue until I realize, wait a second, I've gone Scottish. Wasn't my intention, but I've gone Scottish. There's a little Cockney in there. And it can be very difficult to stay on an accent, especially if you practiced a lot of them. But watch Lord of the Rings. There's a dozen accents in there, and each one conveys the history and language and character of the people who speak it. Star Wars. any that I can think of has this level of characterization. Regular old, my family hasn't watched television, the networks and whatnot for years. So I'm not sure what all is out there. But movies and TV, what accents do they think they'll need for the game? Where can they find that accent? And after having gone through all of this about how to get to practicing accents and speech patterns and just doing the reading over and over in your spare time out loud, where you can do it where it's not going to cause you any social problems, in the car, at breakfast, depending on who's there at breakfast with you. All of this is half of it. And it's an important half. And I would say it's the first half, is getting down how you speak, or how you speak as other people. That's important. You got to nail that. Scratch that. You don't got to nail it. You have to be working on it. Proficiency is a path, not a destination. But once you've got some vocal agility, once you can switch to another accent, if you feel like you need to throw another accent in there, this one right here, this one, I ain't got to put no effort in this accent whatsoever. All I really got to do is drink me 2.5 Bahama Yellowbirds, and I'm here for the rest of the week. Thank you all very much. Once you can pick an accent and slip into it to any degree, realize that this all informs the character. The character is not the voice. The voice is not the character. The voice conveys the character. I've talked about one of my favorite characters to play, Gelt Waseri. And a good reason, a good number of reasons, I wanted to work up a character like Gelt is because he gets the Romanian accent, and I like that. Some of the most entertaining gaming times I've ever be having in my life, they come from my approximation of Romanian. I spent an entire night in Las Vegas once speaking in this accent, and had people taking pictures with me as the dude from Romania. It was successful enough, I would say. But then there's all the other things about Gelt. His precision, his hospitality, the way he wants to convey himself as a domestic, as a proper butler. And suddenly, Gelt does not just have the accent, but it trails off in a slightly different way. Raising that voice at the end, the pitch goes up just a bit. Yes, let you know that he is serious about what he's talking about, but wants your input too, yeah? Even if you need to throw in a yes, so that you get that opportunity to add the pitch. And then you go into a slightly deeper tone when he is discussing things that are meaningful to him, like what he is serving for dinner tonight. I think tonight I stretch my horizons a little bit. I've not usually been good with river fish, but it's all I could find in the market, since we are in the Midwest. So, I'm making a trout almondine, but I'm going to do some of those things with the dill pickles that they do at the places with the picnic tables and the checkerboards on them, and you drink out of the mason jars. I've been hunting down now the deep fried pickles, and I cannot think of something better to accompany a trout almondine than a deep fried pickle. Perhaps I deep fry them very crispy, a little bit more than is recommended, but I chop that up as a crumb and put over a garlic mashed potato, yeah? When the character has a passion, their voice carries that passion. When a character has a worry, the voice carries the worry. The voice is the end product. But what worries the character? What is the character's passion? You're playing D&D, and I'm doing all this esoteric stuff with all this near modern things. Where do you start? You start with the bartender, with the tavern keeper, with the guy behind the bar when everyone walks into the tavern. You're going to be getting information out of them. They're going to be offering a little bit of help, perhaps. At the very least, they're going to ask you what you're drinking. They walk into the bar. How do you start this character? You describe them physically. Dwarvish innkeeper. Why not? Innkeeper's a dwarf. Middle-aged. Had a career as a fighter at one point in time. You can tell because of the axe over the bar, which looks like it might still occasionally get used. That and the eye patch. There's no nautical markings around this bar whatsoever. He earned that in a dungeon someplace. Or in a war. Fighter. Now that and a little thump that replaces one of his footsteps when he moves back and forth behind the bar a little bit. That's a peg leg. And he spends a lot of his time polishing up those mugs. He doesn't have any glasses. It's all mugs. Welcome to a dwarven bar. Now here's where stereotypically I'd drop into Scottish, or some variation of Scottish. Because it's just too easy to go Scottish with dwarves. Just really is. And there's no real reason to change that. This is not going to be a study in divergent cultures. This is the bartender. You may be spending a little bit of time with this character. You may be spending a lot. So, what'll it be then? Gruff. A little gravelly. Yeah. Get your voice up there towards the top of your mouth. The back of the roof of the mouth. You want to get that gargle kind of growl going. So, what'll it be then? I'd already identified this as the bad eye, so he'd lead with the side of his face that he can see with. Little hand motions. Polishing the mugs gives him business, something to do, something that he could always be doing when you walk into the bar. Even if all the mugs are already clean, if he's bored, he's just going to clean them again. Because why not? His bar, and he likes clean mugs. What do you have? Lots of contractions. Not a very precise speaker. Doesn't have to be. Gets his point across. When precision would do, he gets by with a little more force than usual. And it's wine. What on earth do you want that for? I have 126 different varieties of ale. What? No good. I got a bottle in the back of some elvish something from somewhere. Culture and classes. How do they trail off? Do they just go quiet? They have to make sure you know they're trailing off by throwing in one of those vocal burns. Ah, do they throw a little bit more vocalization in there? Are they kind of they want you to think that they've let go of the subject, but they obviously haven't. They don't want to deal with it anymore, but they want you to know that they're not dealing with it anymore, specifically. All right, I'll bag a bottle of wine. Hoity-toity, doily using. What are you, Ranger? Yeah, I might have known. Now the party will give their lives for the bartender. Go figure. If the bartender is moderately friendly at this point. Bartender. So you guys got a place to stay? You haven't got much money, do you? Well, you can rub a couple of coppers together. I can give some space in the common room once it closes. It's not super comfortable, but it's warm. The hearth goes till it goes out. This place ain't going to burn down. And, yeah, you can rub together more than a couple of coppers. I'll see about throwing in a breakfast. Just don't expect this every night. Regular help's gone. I want someone to watch the place. Here you can funnel little favors to the party. Here you can channel information from around the town. Here you can pass through patrons. And a guy in the back said he wanted to talk to them adventurers that was sitting around. Is that you? Is that what you're calling yourself these days? It's a terrible thing to call yourselves. Don't do that. The guy looks like 6 miles of bad road, and the last 2 sucked even worse, so just watch yourselves. He doesn't look like the good kind of guy. That is not easy to do. On the fly, prepping up a few characters to have ahead of time, so that as part of your prep for the game, if you prep for the game, if you can improvise that kind of thing, then your prep time will go down. Otherwise, make a little bit of your prep time the people that your party might meet. Even if they never meet them, make some personalities happen. They do not need character sheets. They do not need sketches. It'd be neat if they had those things. It'd be nice to come up with a stat block for the peg-legged eye-patched bartender. The goblins that watch the place when there's no one sleeping in the common room. Those would be great characters to have around. The guy who's not the master of the Thieves Guild, but he knows the master of the Thieves Guild, if you know what I mean, have that guy around. He's a little slower. He's a little more methodical. His words have some precision. Could be a human, could be an elf or a half-elf. Could theoretically also be a dwarf, would be from a different clan than the bartender. And even just slow, steady, even speaking turns into a character after a little bit. I'm not sure what you people want in this part of town. I will warn you that if you wear all of that shiny stuff, you might not leave with all of it. Now, I understand you look like the kind of folks who are prone to do the violence when you need violence. But there's a lot of violence around here. Watch yourself. I like helpful NPCs, you might have noticed. Helpful NPCs let you guide a party into your adventure the way you want them to enter into it. So do less than helpful NPCs. It all depends on how annoyed you want your party before they get in. I don't know what you want to go into the dungeon for. Why would I? No, I didn't ask him any extra questions. Yeah, I mentioned something about a curse, but I didn't think it was all that important. What's the problem? And practicing the confluence of character and voice. That's the last component of this. And it's work on your voices, think of characters. Think of how you would describe characters you already know how exist. How would you do a quick description of Gimli from Lord of the Rings? Or Lando Calrissian? The T-800 from the first Terminator movie. How would you convey those characters? What things about those characters do you want to come out in the voice? And what behaviors do they engage in that guides the party one way or another? There is a story. The first half of my life, I realized I could just say the punchline. As the story was so ubiquitous that people would invariably understand the reference. I don't think that's the case anymore. It might still be a famous story. The punchline might still be sufficient. But culturally, I think it's important to remember the whole story sometimes. Tourist is in New York Skid Row. He's hoping to catch some shows. He's in New York. So he sees a street performer playing a trumpet. Gives the guy a couple of minutes to finish up his set. When the guy's collecting his tips, tourist walks up to him and says, "Hey man, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?" And the trumpet player looks at him, takes a deep breath. Practice, man. Practice. That's it. Even if you don't have time to do the voice practice, even if you don't have time to sit down and watch a couple of movies to work on character, even if your schedule is so busy that you're making it to the game, skidding in on your heels, throwing down your dice, and starting to roll, even what you do at the table is practice. This looks like the makings of a really good group. The Dungeon Master feels challenged to work on their skills in areas where they felt they could work on their skills. The group seems looking for help for this person, trying to help them achieve what they want to get to, so the group can, as a whole, have a better experience. A group that will encourage you to study more ways to do things should really be willing to be there while you practice and help out. Maybe their characters get a little bit more lively. Maybe some more accents show up at the table. Maybe they wander and are occasionally infectious, but maybe everybody gets a little bit better at character. What is most important? All of these features, all these factors, all the stuff you can do, what is most important is that you're trying and having fun. Two equal things that I can't say one of those is more important than the other. The effort you put in and the fun you have, because it's about the same. If you start to get frustrating, realize you're playing a game, you're having fun with your friends, back off from the frustrating part. Or if someone else like to, can you tell them this in this voice? See if someone else would like to give you offload the duty of characterization for a bit until you feel more comfortable with it. Let some other folks take a crack at it. See how it works. You're engaging in one of the greatest endeavors that I can imagine, cooperative storytelling, where none of you own the story belongs to all of you, and every bit of the experience is shared. Share the experience. I hope this has been helpful. I rambled a bit. I rambled a lot. I hope it's been helpful. Let me know. Feedback is feedback. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me. Thank you for following me along on this episode of Matters of DeCorum. And now, over to Uncle Drac for the outro.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy this video, give it a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If there's any other topics you would like to hear Scott talk about, questions you'd like him to answer, subjects you'd like him to cover, please leave a comment down below. He will love getting your comment, and you will love leaving him one. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, why not? This channel is awesome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you do, you might also want to hit the little notification bell so you're alerted when these videos become available. If you would like to support this channel in a more substantial manner, we invite you to hit us up at the Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows us to create better content more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.